Our second scripture lesson for today comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. It goes like this. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all of the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Please pray with me. Dear God, we hear these scriptures every year. Help them to open our hearts again to you in a new way. Amen. Well, it was the hottest day in 7 years. July 22nd, 2013 was certainly a day that would go down in history. An entire nation began that Monday morning hearing the news of the important historic event. And many people stopped what they were doing in order to head down to be part of the crowds and the excitement. Some people baked cakes in celebration. Other people dressed up in costumes. Still others went and placed bets on the event. They all came looking, seeking something to be part of, to be there, to be part of the history of that incredible moment. They wanted to grab hold of a piece of this big, huge, momentous occasion and make it their own. And then, around 8:30 p.m., official word of the event was released on stationery bearing the crest of Kensington Palace. The top words were, "The Duchess of Cambridge has been delivered of a son." The rest of the announcement went on to say, "Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Cambridge, was safely delivered of a son at 4:24 p.m. The baby weighs 8 pounds 6 ounces. The Duke of Cambridge was present at the birth. The Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh, the Prince of Wales, the Duchess of Cornwall, Prince Harry, and members of both families have been informed and are delighted with the news. Her Royal Highness and her child are both doing well and will remain in the hospital overnight." As news of the event flashed around the world, glasses were raised in toasts, guns and fireworks were set off with enthusiasm, and churches rushed to ring their bells in celebration. The long-anticipated event was finally here, and people of all colors and ages rushed to the gates of Kensington Palace as the official birth announcement was formally placed on a gold easel, visible through the wrought iron scrollwork. Landmarks all over the United Kingdom were lit up in blue, and every newspaper in the country all ran with their headlines announcing the birth of the newborn son. A son that one day, on some future date, was expected to be crowned King of England. Of course, following his grandfather and his father. Now, the impending birth of a different baby was not met with such a joyful celebration. King Herod was absolutely jealous when he heard the news that the Zoroastrian priests brought to his throne room. A new baby had been born, and he was going to be king of the Jews? Hey, but that would mean that the end of Herod's own reign, the end of his own line of succession. It is with great jealousy that Herod heard that there was a baby somewhere out there, a baby who was somehow now a political threat to his own hard-won kingdom. You see, Herod himself was born around 73 BCE to a high-ranking official in the Roman government. When he was in his mid-20s, his father used his influence to have his son appointed to be the governor of Galilee in 47 BCE. When Antigonus took the Roman throne from Hyrcanus II, Herod went to Rome to plead with the Senate to support Hyrcanus II. The Roman Senate unexpectedly gave to Herod the title King of the Jews and told him to go ahead and try to get Antigonus out of Jerusalem and Judea. So, Herod started a war campaign. After 3 years of fighting and a brand new strategic marriage, Herod finally succeeded, and he sent Antigonus to Mark Antony in Rome for execution. This is when Herod became the actual king of the Jews and Judea. It was 37 BCE. And throughout the years of his rule, Herod became known for two related things. Number one, imposing very heavy taxes on his people. And number two, building fortresses, marinas, and the Second Temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. For his 37 years of rule, Herod ruled with an iron fist, adeptly keeping his kingly position by strategically playing the political tides that were always washing through Rome, and also increasing his personal wealth and power by modernizing backwater Judea. So, when these esteemed astrologer priests showed up in Herod's court with this strange message of a newborn king, it is not surprising at all that Herod felt threatened. His entire career, his entire life had been spent propping up and building up his personal power, his personal kingdom. And he was not about to allow a little child to take him down, no matter even if he was the prophesied real king of the Jews. Now, Herod could be any of us. How long have you spent in your life working on your career, building up everything that you have now? Imagine for a minute all of your life's work, all of the long days and sleepless nights, all of the sacrifices you have made with your family and your time. Maybe you went to school for a degree. Maybe you put in long hours in classrooms, writing papers and taking exams. Perhaps you studied for months or years to pass your credentialing exams. Or maybe you worked for years at lower-level jobs before you finally got to the top with that well-earned promotion. Imagine your lifetime. All of that work, all of that energy, all of that sacrifice being thrown away because the King of the universe is now here and demands that you give up everything in order to follow him and be one of his disciples. Would you do it? Could you give up everything that you have ever worked for in your life to let Jesus be your king? Or would you seek to figure out a way that you could keep everything that you have worked for while pretending to worship and give your allegiance to God? Now, a second group of people in our scripture today also heard about the birth of the new king in Bethlehem. This was the religious leaders in Jerusalem, who correctly referenced the prophecy in Micah telling us that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. But even as the chief scribes and the Levites validated this important news with the correct scriptural reference, they were unmoved in their own belief, undeterred from their prominent positions in their own institution. While they understood with their minds the significance of God coming to earth as the Messiah, they did not believe in their hearts that this incredible event was actually true. They were indifferent to the birth. It did not matter to them or change at all what they were doing. Many of us, too, fall into this category. Yeah, we belong to a church. We may understand and even say with our mouths what we believe in Jesus Christ, but then we don't do anything real about it. We don't change a thing in our lives to demonstrate that we are believers in Jesus Christ. We simply go on as if though God doesn't matter. Now, the last group of people in our scripture references today were the Magi themselves, these Zoroastrian priests who specialized in prophecy and in watching the signs of the times in the heavens. They watched the movements of the stars, the comets, and the planets. Now, these things were all deemed prophetic in the first century. But these Gentiles, these non-Jewish foreigners, were willing to do something very drastic in response to their knowledge that the king had been born. They were willing to come and worship another god other than Zoroaster. They were willing to put their lives on the line to travel to another country and culture and to give expensive and significant gifts to Jesus. Now, they could have seen the signs and ignored them like the Levites and the scribes did. They could have worked to stop the kingdom of Jesus, to strengthen the reputation and the belief in Zoroaster. But they did not. These three brave Zoroastrian priests were willing to risk their careers, their personal safety, to give up their previous faith, to give up their wealth and power by responding to the King of Kings, who was born in Bethlehem that day over 2,000 years ago. So, my friends, what about us sitting here today? My only question today is, what will you and I do? Will we risk our careers, everything that we have built for Jesus? Or will we be like Herod and willing to do anything to keep our hold on our own power, our own wealth, our own career? Or will you and I be like the Levites and the scribes and simply ignore the meaning and the implications of the God of the universe coming to this earth to teach us how to live and how to love? Or will you and I seek out and find what it is that God is doing today? Figure out what God is calling you and I to do. Will we, like the Magi did, be willing to risk all that we have and all that we are for something so much bigger and better than ourselves? I pray that we will. Amen.